Okay, so a lot of stuff to get into. So, yes, I'm back. YouTube won't let me delete the channel for some dumb reason. I've tried several times and couldn't get it to work, so I guess I'm stuck in an abusive relationship with YouTube. Wonderful. But that's good for y'all. I guess. Anyway, on top of that, I'm on a mandatory break. I didn't know that was a thing in the civilian world. I didn't know you had mandatory breaks. I didn't know that was a thing. But apparently it is. And I'm on a super long one. And now I'm like at the house and I'm like, okay, well, parts haven't arrived for the bike yet. The upgrades for the truck I want to do, like I can't find them and all that kind of stuff, because I look for free things all the time. So I'm like, what the hell else can I do? And I'm like, you know what? Might as well do some of this, right? Yeah, nothing ever goes as planned, does it? But what's that I always say? What is it I always say? No plane ever survives first contact with the enemy. That's what I always say. Anything that can, will, and does go terribly wrong. That being said, screw it. Guess I'm doing this still as much as I can, I guess. I honestly don't really see too much point to continue. We don't get a lot on the channel, so whatever. If you're watching, cool. Thank you. You're awesome. Love you. And now let's get into some MrBallen, shall we? MrBallen. American abducted in Russian forest. This should be interesting. Well, I have plenty of time. I did not know this was like, if I had known like you got mandatory breaks, like forced, like you can't just be like, okay, I'll just keep working. I don't feel like eating. They're like, no, you must go and F off. I'm like, okay. Don't know what I'm going to do for that long, but all right. Guess I'll do this. Y'all ready? I'm ready. Let's jump into some MrBallen. Whoops. Shut up.
In 2016, four friends rented a small rustic cabin near a forest in a little village in Russia. Their plan was to spend the night in this cabin, and then early the next morning, they would get up and they would hike this trail that would bring them to the summit of a nearby mountain. So on March 27th, the friends got in their car, they made their way to this little village, they found their cabin, they went inside, they hung out for a bit, and then by 2 a.m., they had gone to sleep. Little did they know, outside of their cabin in the forest, lurking in the darkness, something was watching their cabin's front door, waiting for one of them to come outside. But before we get into today's story...
And it was probably a bear. And it went nom nom. Alright, no, it said abducted. So maybe it was a Yeti? Isn't that what's in Russia? The Yeti? I'm pretty sure it's the Yeti. I could be wrong, though. Y'all let me know.
If you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button hands you their phone and tells you to please take this once-in-a-lifetime photo of them, agree to do it, but leave your finger over their lens. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
Still love MrBallen's intro. Best intro in the world. Everyone agrees. At least I agree, and I'm everyone, so I win. Let's continue.
When most people picture Russia in their minds, they picture European Russia, which is literally the part of Russia on the western side that sits in Europe and is by far the most populated part of the country. But European Russia only accounts for 23% of the total territory that is Russia. The other 77% is to the east of European Russia. It starts at the Ural mountain range and it extends all the way over 5 million square miles to the Pacific Ocean. And this vast, mostly forested expanse, which is 50 times bigger than the entire United Kingdom, is called Siberia. and Siberia is absolutely brutal. In Siberia, it is almost always freezing cold. Literally. The average annual temperature across all of Siberia is 32.9 degrees Fahrenheit, so it is 0.9 degrees above freezing on average every single day. In addition to the extremely deadly weather that exists basically year-round in Siberia, Siberia is also home to a bunch of huge deadly animals, such as the brown bear, which is the same as the infamous grizzly bear in...
Bub. You know, you think that's all cute and cuddly, right? Until it starts eating you like butt first. Then it's not so cute and cuddly. Nature is not your friend. Nature is not your friend. Look at this monster. Look at this demonic beast of a creature. You see that? Them eyes? You see them eyes? Yeah, it'll just eat you, dude. It'll just eat you. Or at the very worst, just completely screw you up. Don't mess with a bear. Maybe like California black bears, though. They're kind of tiny. They're not that big. Yeah, they're really strong. They're really tough still, but they're kind of cowards. I would know. I've ran after a few. Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done. It can still screw you up. But yeah. Although I'm kind of surprised it's only 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Because when I was at Fort Drum, like during the winter, the average temperature would be like 15 or 20 degrees. And then at nighttime, it would be like negative 15, negative 10. And then if we had like a deep cold winter, like extra cold, it would get down to like negative 50. And and people are probably just clenching their butt cheeks right now, like, oh no. Yeah, we still went and trained in that stuff. Yes, we did, with the least amount of gear possible on. Yeah, it's really fun. I really miss that weather though. Honestly, I would love to be in a place where it's just freezing cold all the time. But all the places where it's freezing cold are ran by some of the dumbest coleros on the planet. And they have the stupidest laws in existence. Yeah, so anyway, let's keep going.
North America, the gray wolf, which by size alone makes virtually all other wolves look like little puppies. Gray wolves can grow to be nearly 200 pounds.
Look at those monsters, dude. Look at the monster. People think Australians have it hard. This is a gray wolf. This dog is essentially like the size of your average wolf, I would say. Just about like your average, like American wolf. Except timber wolves, they can get pretty big too. But not near this size. Look at this monster. Look at this. 200 pounds? That's something that weighs about similar in weight to me. Right? That can barrel you down. 200 pounds. Sucker could probably run at like 50 miles an hour as well. Really fast. So yeah. Pretty scary, isn't it? Pretty scary. It looks all cute and cuddly till it eats your face. Actually, they eat things butt first too, and they eat them while they're alive. I think. I'm pretty sure they do it that way.
200 pounds. And of course, there is the highly intelligent Siberian tiger, who is perhaps one of the only predators on Earth that is known to seek out and kill people for revenge. For example, in 1997, a hunter named Vladimir Markov was walking through a Siberian forest when he came face to face with one of these Siberian tigers, and he ended up shooting the tiger before fleeing, except the tiger didn't die. Instead, it got up and secretly followed Vladimir all the way back to his cabin, and then this tiger camped out outside of the cabin until Vladimir came out again, and the tiger pounced, killed him, and ate him. And so, unsurprisingly, Siberia has an absolutely minuscule population relative to its massive size.
Also, Siberian tigers, aren't they like the largest tigers on the planet? I think. I'm pretty sure they are. Let's look this up, actually. We'll do it live! I probably blew out some people's eardrums, but I really don't care. Siberian tigers. Let's do fun facts. Or just facts. Whatever. Facts are not fun for most people nowadays. They hate facts. Facts actually hurt a lot of people, apparently. I don't know how, because I love facts. They're so awesome. And they're so friendly, to me at least. I guess if you're just soft and weak as hell and couldn't ever do anything possibly to survive in the real world, yeah, that's different. Siberian tiger. Let's go to National Geographic. Why not? We're doing it live, folks. We're going to have fun live. Please don't play the video. All right. No. No. No! You dunce. Okay, whatever. I can still see enough down here, though. Let me get out of the way, actually. Okay. Size 10 feet long. Dude, this thing's twice the size of, like, Shaq. Shaq is freaking, what is he, like, 7 foot 9 inches or something like that? He's super tall. Actually, wait, Yao Ming is like the tallest dude, isn't he? Yao Ming's pretty tall. This thing is on 2 legs is taller than both of them. It's taller than Dr. Disrespect. He's like 6'8". That's a giant. The thing's a freaking giant monster. It is a house cat that's not domesticated. That is the size of your truck, essentially. That's if that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. Maybe you're just stupid or stupider than me. I don't know. I wouldn't mess with it. Not even if I had like an M2 Browning machine gun. Weight 660 pounds. So this thing weighs about. It weighs as much as like 4 of me. 660 pounds? That's about. Wait, isn't that how much like a freaking hatchback weighs? Like a little tiny hatchback car? That's how much that sucker weighs? Freaking insane. Freaking insane. Let's see if I can refresh it. Maybe get away from this little thing. No, it wouldn't let me keep going. Okay, whatever. I tried to trick it. I failed. Whatever. Cool. But yeah. So I'm right. These things are monsters. Absolute monsters.
However, there are some adventurous people out there who are drawn to Siberia for the same reasons that most other people avoid it. These adventurous people see Siberia as one of the last truly wild places on our planet, and they want to experience it for themselves. And one of these highly adventurous people was a young man named Colin Madsen. Colin, who came from a very successful American family, was a big outdoors enthusiast who at some point in his youth began researching Siberia because he fell in love with its rugged natural beauty. He quickly began researching not only Siberia, but Siberian culture and Russian culture, and also at some point he became fluent in the Russian language. Then, in 2013, when Colin was 22 years old, he left his home in Missouri and moved to Siberia. He settled in one of Siberia's few population centers, a city called Irkutsk, which is located in the southeast of Siberia and right along the edge of Lake Baikal, which is the world's deepest freshwater lake. Colin's Siberia plan was twofold. He would go to school while he was there, and he would go out and explore. And at first, his plan went perfectly. He was accepted into Moscow State Linguistic University in Irkutsk, and very quickly he made friends who were eager to accompany him on his adventures out into the Siberian wilderness. From his arrival in Siberia in 2013 to 2016, Colin did well in his studies, and he spent countless hours exploring the forests and mountainous areas all around Lake Baikal and right outside of Irkutsk.
Nothing, absolutely nothing could go wrong here. You just have like, super wolves, super bears, and super cats that are predatory to humans. And that's just 3 things that are looking to kill you. and you're a skinny little meat and bones walking stick who's adventurous. This couldn't possibly end terribly, could it? I don't think so. This will have a happy ending, totally, completely, and so easily. Happy ending. Yes, I'm still here. Deal with it, I guess. YouTube won't let me delete the channel. Whatever. So I guess I continue. Also, I got a lot more time. Even though I've started working full time, basically, I've got a lot more time on my hands than I'm forced to have because mandatory breaks are a thing. I did not know that was real. I thought it was just a joke with civilians. But apparently that's so. So, yeah, I guess I'm doing this. Yeah, let's continue.
In fact, Colin became so familiar with this region that he began volunteering with a nonprofit in the area that went around marking new trails, which meant Colin was literally venturing into the wilds of Siberia and just marking the trail as he went. So when Colin's family heard about what happened to him in 2016, they could not believe it. In March of 2016, Colin and 3 of his good hiking friends, one was American and 2 were Russian, decided they wanted to go on a hike together.
So when they heard what happened to him in 2016, they could not believe it. Okay, maybe he didn't get eaten by a super predator creature that exists. Okay, my curiosity has piqued greatly.
They settled on hiking to the summit of Love Peak, which was a mountain located a few hours away from Irkutsk in a small village called Arshan.
There's nothing to love about a peak of a mountain. There's nothing to love about it. Then again, I'm terrified of static heights, but I could jump out of planes all day and be perfectly fine. Yeah, I have quite the interesting affliction, I would say. Although, I mean, I will admit, mountains are beautiful. I mean, I love climbing mountains and stuff. I'm just terrified of the highest parts of them. Actually, you know what? All of them. Because all of them are super high, way above the ground. And it feels like if I so much as lean forward, I'm just going to fly off and get smashed on the rocks below.
This hike was nothing compared to the gnarly Siberian wilderness hikes all 4 of these guys had been on before. The trail that led up to Love Peak, it was fairly steep, but it was incredibly well marked, and all 4 of these guys had hiked it several times before. However, because Colin and his friends were so experienced at hiking in Siberia, they knew that even the easiest hikes needed to be respected because Siberia was still Siberia. There were dangers that lurked everywhere. And so the men called ahead to the village of Arshan and they rented one of these small rustic cabins that's in the village that sits right at the base of Love Peak, and it's kind of tucked away in this forest. And so this cabin would serve as their sort of base camp and would allow them to arrive in Arshan, get their gear together, and then when they were ready, they could begin this hike to the summit. And so a few days later, on March 27th, Colin and his 3 friends loaded up their car and they drove west to Arshan. And when they got there, they stopped at a local store and got some supplies and then made their way to their cabin. Their cabin was just a single room with a few beds inside of it. It was enough to protect them from the elements, but really nothing more. As for a toilet, the cabin didn't have one, but there was an outhouse outside that they could use. So after the friends moved into the cabin and claimed their beds and put their things down, they all sat down and began prepping their gear and eating some food and chatting. And then finally, at 2 a.m., they decided they needed to go to sleep because their plan was to get on the path up to Love Peak by 7 a.m., which meant they needed to get up at 5 a.m. to make their final preparations. So at 2 a.m., the lights in the cabin turned off and the friends all fell asleep. And then 3 hours later, at 5 a.m., when the lights came back on again, it was immediately clear something was wrong.
So a Yeti. That's my guess. Yeti! You know? Big giant white, Bigfoot from Russia. I think it was a Yeti. I think it was. It plucked him out, beat him to death with its giant fists, and then chucked him into the woods or something. I don't know why that's funny to me. You tell me, okay? I'm a sick sense of humor. But I'm just imagining like a Yeti, like the one I've seen, not in real life, but like I've seen a depiction of a Yeti. I think it was like a cartoon or something. And it has like the huge hands and it's giant frame. And it like grabs somebody and it's just like, "Roar!" And I'm like, it's bad, but it's funny. He got yanked up by a Yeti. Wouldn't that be funny? Or at least I think it is. Like, whatever. Sick sense of humor. Okay, I've been to dark places, and I remain in darker ones still. If that makes any sense, or take of that what you will. Whatever. Let's keep going.
Colin was not in his bed. His friends assumed, when they looked over at his bed and saw his personal belongings were all still there, that Colin must have gotten up and headed outside, maybe to use the outhouse or go for a quick walk, and they just hadn't heard him leaving. And so the three friends initially just kind of shrugged off Colin's absence and said, he'll be back any minute, most likely, and if for some reason he's not back soon, he'll certainly be back by 7 a.m., because that was the agreed upon time they would leave for this hike.
And of course, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Your boy's in trouble. Okay, if he's not immediately there with you, he's in trouble. Go look for him. Go look for him. Trust me. I know. I've been through this.
But as the minutes ticked closer and closer to 7 a.m. and Colin still had not shown up or tried to call them or do anything, the friends started to worry. It just didn't make any sense that Colin would just get up and leave without telling them where he was going. Finally, at 7 a.m., when Colin still had not shown up and the friends' cursory search of the outside area near the cabin had yielded no results, they decided they had to tell someone. And so they wrote a note addressed to Colin, and they put it on the front of their cabin door. And this note basically just told Colin, if you come back here and you see this note, know that we're looking for you. So stay put or tell someone you're here. And so after putting up this note, the friends left the cabin and they headed to the nearest police station where they reported Colin missing. The police would eventually launch this huge search in and around Arshan, both in the forested area right around the village and then also up into the mountains near Love Peak. But despite this huge effort, no one could find Colin, at least not at first. A couple of months ago, I was laying in bed when I heard this strange tapping sound coming from my downstairs. Now, as I'm laying there, I'm trying to run through the different scenarios of what this sound could be when this tapping sound gets louder and louder, and then all of a sudden, I hear the sound of glass breaking in my first floor. And so I immediately leap out of bed, I run down the hall, I go downstairs, and I'm looking across my living room, and there, coming through my now broken window, was everyone's worst nightmare. I can't even say it. Everyone's worst nightmare. I literally can't even say it. It's so stupid. Was everyone's worst nightmare. A great white shark wearing a special breathing apparatus who was carrying a crowbar looking to rob my home. Carrying a crowbar coming into my home to try to rob me. Now, luckily...
I love how many takes it takes for him to do this. I love it. Everyone's worst nightmare. A shark. Wouldn't that be terrifying if sharks could fly? Could you imagine that shit? Just a flying mouth. That's what a shark would be. And it'd just be like, nom. You couldn't even go out to the street. You couldn't go out to the street. That's how many sharks there are. And they'd just be like, woo, 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 nom. Just imagine that. Just imagine, like they're going through the air like they are in the water, and they're just like, I bet you everybody would be Second Amendment across the board for that shit. I guarantee you that. Can you imagine that stuff? That'd be so dumb and ridiculous, but terrifying as hell, right? Yeah, that'd be something else.
I had prepared for this moment, and I had a Civil War era cannon installed in my first floor aimed at that window just in case this happened. And so within seconds, I was firing that cannon off, and Mr. Land Shark was land dead. Now, of course, most of you are thinking, come on, John, that's crazy, but that'll never happen to me. And you'd be wrong. Because studies have shown 100% of all people in the world will at some point come face to face with a predatory land shark who is attempting to rob your home. And so if that hasn't happened to you yet, it's time to prepare. And that means two things. One, installing Civil War era cannons on your first floor aimed at the various windows. And two, signing up for SimpliSafe.
Okay, so we're going to skip that part. Because it's like a freaking... I mean, it's cool and all, but there you go. There's the code. Skipping a bit of that. Get back to the story. Because I get in trouble if I show the ads from the videos, apparently now.
On Monday...
Look, I know what you're thinking. Didn't you see we're going to delete the channel? Well, I tried, and YouTube wouldn't let me. And I've got more time than I know what to do with at the moment. I literally have like another hour to do whatever. And then I'm going to be working all the rest of the day. So, like, look, having mandatory super long breaks for no reason when I'd like to do nothing else but work and not eat food until I get home, I didn't account for that. My bad. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. So I guess the channel's going to have a little bit of something going on. And some of y'all are still here, apparently. So, whatever. I guess we'll just continue or something.
April 4th, so 8 days into Colin's disappearance, a group of searchers were looking in the forest about 1 mile away from the cabin where Colin and his friends had been staying. And they look up ahead and they see there is this clearing and there's something in the middle of it. And so the searchers begin moving their way towards this clearing, ducking under branches and stepping over brush. And when they get close enough, they can see Colin is in the clearing. And Colin is deceased. He was laying flat on his back with his left arm extended out to the side and his right arm extended but closer to his body, and both of his hands were clenched in tight fists. And on his hands and his wrists were visible abrasions and cuts, which later would be determined to have most likely been caused from someone or something holding onto him, trying to restrain Colin. Colin also had visible abrasions and cuts on the front of his neck. Colin's clothing, which consisted of a long-sleeve thermal shirt, heavy pants, and hiking boots, were ripped and torn in several places. And interestingly, Colin was not wearing socks under his boots. Now that seems inconsequential, but Colin had had surgery on both of his ankles and had scar tissue on his ankles that if he didn't have socks on, those scars would rub against the inside of his boot, and he said it was very painful. So he always wore socks. Also, Colin's body showed virtually no signs of decomposition, and all of his wounds and abrasions looked, quote, fresh, according to medical personnel. In short, Colin looked like he had recently been in some sort of physical altercation, and whoever or whatever he was grappling with had eventually overpowered him and killed him, although it was not clear how he actually died. Russian authorities were very quick to suspect Colin's 3 friends who had been with him, but they were brought into the station and they denied having anything to do with Colin's death, and they all passed their lie detector tests. After that, Russian authorities quickly closed this case by concluding that, well, if his friends didn't do it, then that means Colin must have been high on drugs or drinking alcohol or both, and he just wandered out of his cabin and he got lost in the woods and he died of hypothermia. He froze to death. The end.
Sounds par for the course when it comes to Russian police of any kind and every kind. But yeah, I'm starting to think I might have accidentally hit the nail on the head with the whole Yeti jokes I was making earlier. You know, Yeti just grabbing him and going, ah. So I guess I wasn't wrong exactly. But did I almost call it or what? I'm good. I'm good. You know I'm good. You know I'm good. Click the join button.
However, Colin's parents just could not accept that as being what happened to their son. There were a lot of reasons for skepticism, but the main one was that Colin was an absolute expert at navigating this particular region of Siberia. And so the idea that he would leave his cabin for a quick walk or something and get so completely lost that he would die 8 days later seemed way too far-fetched. And so Colin's parents hired a US-based private lab to do a review of Russia's autopsy of Colin to give their opinion if the autopsy was accurate or not. And this US-based lab pretty much immediately found that the Russian autopsy was not remotely accurate. Number one, Colin was not under the influence of alcohol or drugs. He was sober. Although technically he did have very small amounts of THC in his urine. THC is the chemical that is found in marijuana, but the amount was so little, it basically meant he had consumed the THC days before he went missing. And so he would not have been remotely affected by that small amount of THC in his system. Number two, the lab determined that Colin almost certainly did not die from hypothermia. Instead, all signs pointed to Colin dying from being suffocated, meaning he was murdered. Someone crushed his airway or in some way restricted him from breathing, and that's what killed him. And three, based on the lack of decomposition, the freshness of the injuries on Colin's body, and the lack of animal predation on his body when they found him, indicated that Colin did not just wander out of his cabin and immediately die somewhere in the forest. Instead, he was alive for most of the time people were looking for him, meaning when they found him, he likely had died within hours of being found. And so these findings by this US-based lab kind of create a general theory about what must have happened to Colin.
Including a Yeti. I don't know. I would really like it if they were just like, yep, it was a Yeti, y'all. It was a Russian Sasquatch. Or Sam Squanch.
After Colin left the cabin in the early morning hours of March 28th, maybe to go to the outhouse or to go for a quick walk, when he went outside, someone or something was nearby, and they either lured Colin to them or they straight up ambushed Colin and took him away. Now, we have no idea what happened to Colin after he was abducted, but we can safely assume that after being abducted and taken somewhere, he was alive, and he stayed alive for several days until on the 8th day of his disappearance, Colin was killed, likely by his captor, either at the spot where he was found, or he was killed somewhere else, maybe in the forest, and then moved to the spot where he was found. Many people believe it was the Russian government who targeted Colin, they kidnapped him, and they killed him. And their botched investigation into his death was actually a calculated cover-up.
It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't. They're Russians. That should surprise nobody, honestly. Just like Democrats.
Colin had participated in at least one peaceful environmentalist-led protest in Siberia, and after the protest, Colin apparently got a written warning by the Russian police not to attend another protest. But why would Colin, who was just one of many people involved in these protests, be singled out by the Russian government and killed for his participation? And why would the government elect to kill Colin when he was with 3 of his closest friends who would immediately notice his absence? It just doesn't add up. Today, Colin's parents are still trying to figure out what happened to their son, but unfortunately, their son's case is closed in Russia, and so no one on the Russian side is talking to the parents or giving them any new information. And so as a result, they and the rest of us are left to wonder who or what was lurking in the shadows when Colin stepped out of the cabin that morning. And then where did they take him? And what did they do to him for nearly a week before they killed him deep inside of that Siberian forest? So that's going to do it. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already,
Yeti. Totally a Yeti. 100%. Everybody agrees. Okay, everybody agrees. Totally a Yeti. I called it. I told everyone. I warned them. It was a Yeti. I'm probably doing a really shit job of trying to do a Donald Trump impression. Whatever. It's fine. I don't know why, but that just popped into my head. Yeti, though. Probably a Yeti. They're mean beasts, dude. They're mean.
The next time the like button hands you their phone and asks you to take a once-in-a-lifetime photo of them, agree to do it, but leave your finger over their lens. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. We have a podcast called the MrBallen Podcast that puts out brand new podcast exclusive stories on Monday mornings, and on Thursday mornings, we put out the remastered audio of our best YouTube videos.
All right, there we go. I'm going to cut that one short there. MrBallen, American abducted in Russia forest. Didn't I read Russian before? I think I read Russian. Oh, well, whatever. I liked it. It's fun. It's cool. What did y'all think? Y'all let me know. All right, you know what time it is. Apparently, I'm going to continue having the channel, whether I try to or not, or whether I do try to or don't. I don't know. You tell me, okay? YouTube won't let me delete it. And y'all are still here somehow. Thank you if you're still here, but I wonder about your sanity if you're hanging out with me, because I'm the craziest veteran alive. Damn, I still have like 40 plus minutes to do something with. I'll probably just go watch like a show or something. I don't know. What did y'all think? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. All right, you know what time it is. Like the video, share it, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you click the like button on the video. Become a member if you want to. There's 2 tiers, cheap and cheaper. What else? Is there anything that really matters, actually? The channel's basically, like, going nowhere, so I don't know why I keep doing this. You tell me. Let me know in the comments. Be my soothsayer. So, yeah. Discord. Link in the description. Donations. Link in the description. Yeah. Cool. So, be good. Be safe. Make good luck for yourselves. Badger out.